Good morning. So we have another session for our students, for our JSGP students on policy careers and possibilities. Maybe we can start with an introduction to our guest today, to our esteemed guest, Anish Michael, who graduated from JSGP in 2021, if I'm right, Anish? So you were the 2019 batch. So Ritika Sen can probably give us an introduction to Anish and then we can start off, right?
Thank you, ma'am. So today we have the pleasure of having Mr. Anish Michael with us for this talk. And so a brief introduction about him. He is a 2021 graduate from the MA Public Policy program at JSGP. Prior to that, he completed his bachelor's in mathematics from St. Stephen's College, Delhi. And during his master's, he bagged groundbreaking internships with coveted organizations like PRIA India and OECD Development. And right after his graduation, he joined the OMI Foundation, India, as a research associate and is currently working as lead Center for Future Mobility at OMI. His primary work deals with policy challenges catering to urban mobility, and he has done some exceptional work over the years on the same. And we are really fortunate to have him with us today.
Yeah. So one more just addition to this is that Anish is one of those very rare students who are very focused on what he wanted. So he's one of those students who went out and got a capstone which he wanted, right? He wanted to work with OMI, so he was very clear about that. And so he will tell us how he did it. So maybe this can be some amount of motivation for our other students. If there are capstones that you like, there are organizations that you want to work with, but they're not there in the list of capstones provided by JSGP, you can do what Anish did, right? Before we move on, I just want to add one note here that, this is like a discussion where all of us are coming, on board with our personal views. These are not institutional views. So what we say here, what we discuss here are views of people, individuals, and not the views of institutions. All right. So we can start off with maybe, Anish beginning and explaining to us how he started his MA public policy with us, how he structured and organized his studies, how he picked an area that he wanted to work on. So over to you, Anish. You have between 30 to 40 minutes, so we will let you speak and then, then there will be a bit of a question answer session. All right?
30, 40
All
minutes.
right.
It'll be quite
Yeah.
helpful to have more of an interactive session. And it's great to see so many students actually coming in online on a Saturday. I'm assuming it's a holiday today, but actually coming on to this and hoping that the session is useful to most of you. So just as Ritika did explain, thank you, Kaveri ma'am, thank you, Ritika, for the warm welcome and also inviting me to give this session and take the session for the students. Like I said, I'm hoping that it is useful and it brings some kind of clarity as you go about your master's program at JSGP. So just to give a brief, as Ritika mentioned, I did my bachelor's in mathematics from Delhi University. After which I took up something of a career passion that I wanted to pursue, which was UPSC. I pursued that for about 6 to 7 years. After which, having not cleared the exams, I still wanted to do something in the public policy field. Good morning, sir. Nice to see Dean Sudarshan also here. Yes.
Well, great to
I hope I'm audible. I'm not, I think, am I audible?
Yes, you
Yeah.
are.
Okay. Yes. So just to give a brief, I was pursuing my UPSC, and post which, having not successfully cleared the exams, I wanted to continue to do something in the public policy field. And that's when I was looking at masters in public policy, and that's when Jindal happened. I joined in 2019, was the 2019-2020
I think he's gotten stuck.
and the capstone that I got through the university and later on at work. I'll probably just give a little bit brief on that. From the course perspective, I think for
Anish,
me,
I think just a pause. I think in between we lost you. So maybe can you start from the beginning that you
sure,
joined in 2019? Yeah,
sure,
please.
yes, ma'am, yeah. So I joined the course in 2019, was the 2019 to 2021 batch. I'll just take you through my experiences in campus, the opportunities and the various things that I did and went about during my stay at JSGP. To begin with, I think in the first year it was a good foundation, having already coming with some kind of knowledge in the policy field. It was great to learn of those courses that help in identifying how you go about policy formulation, how you go about policy evaluations. The courses that were structured. At that point of time, I didn't think that would actually help me in the work that I'm doing right now. In retrospect, yes. Even your introductory course to, like, say, introduction to public policy, which gives you the base and the foundation to understand how public policy functions in governments and different states, I think helped me to build that base foundation. Just as an advice that I would say is, when you're starting off with your master's program, I think it would be great to just identify and understand where your skills and where your strengths lie. From that, I think it will be great to just go on to maximize on that from the courses that the course itself provides. For me, for instance, I had some kind of like inclination towards analysis, data analysis, having coming with a mathematical background as well. I wanted to kind of exploit that with the courses that was provided. That's where the statistical and quantitative analysis course that was taught by Krishanu sir helped me quite a bit. And that's something that from experience from my cohort as well, a lot of them fear numbers. But coming here today, as I'm working in my current organization, the quantitative part also becomes very important when you're talking about public policy discourse. Which significantly help you understand how you go about research methodologies. But combining both of them together, I think helped me in my work today. Just to give you a brief example, I just recently had the opportunity to lead an entire project right from beginning to start. It started from building survey methodologies and then going on to analyzing the data and then writing the report as well. And in that context, I would definitely say these courses that built in my first year in itself, and of course over the 2 years, helped me kind of put that into practice in my work. So for you guys as well, as you go about your 2 years, think about that particular area that interests you. It could be communication, it could be advocacy, it could be research, it could be analysis. But from a work perspective, I would still advise that try to have a good grip and grasp in all of those elements. You could excel in one of them, yes, but having a fundamental and functional knowledge of each of those elements, I think, opens up and helps you branch out much more. Again, when even for my internships, as I was planning them, my interest primarily was in urban development, and that's something that I wanted to work on. That's where I was trying to figure out how these internships could be beneficial to me, to put what I have actually been learning in this in my course, to actually putting it in practice during the internship process as well. So my first internship was with Priya, and I wanted to do a field internship, that is basically going out there and then being part at the grassroots level, at the ground level, to conduct research. I mean, at that point of time, when I was just joining in my first year, Priya had just concluded a particular project, so the field survey part of it was completed. So that's where I came in to do the analysis part for the data that was collected. This was primarily working on sanitation. So that was again something related to urban development and cities. That became my area of interest. It helped me understand sanitation and how things function at a very at the grassroots levels. I also primarily worked on two panchayats in Rajasthan, and having interacted with people there, and also analyzing how to make panchayats more functional and more efficient and effective and impactful. That was also part of my work that I did at Priya, which culminated into me writing a policy brief on that, which was for internal purposes, but that was something that I did. Post which, the second internship that I did was with OECD. This was particularly, I was working with the director's office and working on national development strategies across Asia, Latin America. So these were the two areas that, and the Caribbean nations as well. So I was looking at how national development strategies could be analyzed across these three different regions, and also help develop what at that point OECD was doing to improve development strategies in the post-COVID era. It was almost a 5 to 6 month long process. I had a great mentor at that point of time as well, who was helping me kind of understand how international organizations do work, and how the research actually goes about. That again, having done practical courses on research writing at the time of my course, and then actually putting into practice during my internship, which was for about 5-6 months. It helped me hone that skill of making my writing a little more crisp, making my research a little more pointed and focused. And that's something that kind of helps you to build as you go forward. And all of this, I mean, it kind of builds into the work that I'm again doing currently, which requires absolute focused, pointed, crisp research that's got to be to the point. And again, backing it up with your qualitative and quantitative research methodologies that continue. And then for my capstone is when I actually chanced upon coming across OMI, which was formerly Ola Mobility Institute, post which we have transitioned into an independent trust organization called OMI Foundation. So at that point of time, as one of the Wednesday lectures, my current executive director, Aishwarya Raman, had come for a lecture to JSGP. And that's when I got to know about an organization called OMI that purely functioned on mobility, urban mobility, electric mobility, and accessible and inclusive mobility. And that kind of piqued my interest in knowing that, okay, fine, within urban development, I did want to work something in the mobility space. And at that point of time, looking at capstone opportunities, I did know about a few organizations, but this one was very helpful in knowing that there's one organization that's working solely on that, and that's when I wanted to either at least have that opportunity to interning with them, if not doing a capstone. Aishwarya had come during my first year at that point of time, so I thought maybe I'll just do an internship in my first year. Somehow that did not work out at that point of time, given that Priya had already worked out. But then I tried for a capstone. So how did I go about it was, at that point, how the capstones were being arranged is where we were asked our priority organizations for us to identify ourselves that we want to work, and maybe suggested to the administration and our professors at JSGP. So for me, I shortlisted OMI as being one of them, and thankfully we had a letter and an email sent out from a college, from the university to the organization, and they were kind enough to accept me as a capstone student at that point of time. It was a 3-month engagement from January on to end of March. Post which, sometime in March, I had this conversation within the organization where they wanted to take me as a full-time employee at OMI. So I just transitioned from going on to doing a capstone on to working full-time there. Again, for you guys, it's important that you identify maybe that areas that you would like to work. I know sometimes it might be a little unclear given there are a lot of subjects, a lot of courses that you guys are learning, but there would always be something that interests you. I know even at JSGP we provide a lot of courses on health. I also did a course on health policy, if I'm not wrong, with at during my second year. So think about how you can leverage these courses and equip yourself and upskill. Uh, I mean, JSGP does provide a lot of opportunities for you guys to kind of do that. So take advantage of your professors. They provide a lot of knowledge. They provide a lot of areas that you can talk about and branch out. Speak to them and kind of, again, if you're not sure, just try to maybe talk to them and see how you can channelize that. But like I said, these 4 basics of research, your quantitative, qualitative analysis, communications, try to have some kind of grip and grasp that going forward, you are able to kind of, as you start work, are able to kind of leverage whatever that you've learned at JSGP. Currently, if I just talk a little bit more about my work at OMI, I currently lead the Center for Future Mobility here, and that primarily looks at urban mobility. I also work specifically on urban air mobility and the drone space. So why I'm bringing that about is I recently saw that I think JSGP is offering a course on science and technology policies. Going forward, think about, I mean, technology is here to stay. So think about how you can leverage such courses for yourself to again equip, understand, and also staying up to date with whatever's been currently happening. Currently, even if you look at traditional sectors like your health, education, sanitation, technology has crept in, and technology is assisting in enabling, disseminating, and in your whole public policy discourse. So think about how such courses, building that base. Like for us, I don't think we had that course in science and technology, but looking back, I know that's probably a course that I might have taken, given that even for urban mobility, where I'm working on different technologies, every day it's evolving. I think that would provide a definite base and foundation for me to, rather than, upskilling myself as part of my job. I mean, that continues, but of course, having a head start and giving that platform at JSGP kind of provides. I mean, think about also seeing how you can upskill based on, say, some skill courses that you can take. I did applied econometrics that I'd taken in my first year, which definitely helped me and continues to help me in my work today as well. I understand that not many would be interested or would have that kind of fear for econometrics and the numbers and the modeling and everything. But think about if again, quantitative research is something that you want to pursue, and there are a lot of job opportunities. I mean, a simple way for you to kind of gauge that as well is when you look at job openings, just read the job description. You will understand the skill sets that organizations are looking for. And something like econometrics and data is definitely out there, but I'm not saying that everyone needs to take that. But think about such kind of courses that will enable you to stand out, that will enable you to have that conversation with the organization who'd be interested in knowing that you bring a certain specific level of skill set to the organization that's going to be beneficial for them. So those are some things that I did. Like Kaveri ma'am also said, I didn't particularly plan my course, but of course, in the back of my mind, I had the certain elements that I wanted to do. That I wanted to kind of focus on and use during the part of my course at NAPP. So I mean that's kind of like a brief. I mean I know it'd be more beneficial if there are more pointed questions from you guys to ask me, and then I can take it forward from there.
Okay, so I think now we'll open the floor to questions. So anybody who has questions can just press the raise icon so I can recognize them. Any questions, anyone?
I think I have a question. I'm sorry, but there is, I've just transitioned to a new computer, so somehow the camera does not seem to be working suddenly. But I have a question because identifying this OMI as an institution, it wasn't really it was a culmination of choices, I think, right, Anish? You had decided you're going to do this specialization in urban development and planning. So can you tell us a little bit more on what are the things you did prior to, because the capstone is the last semester when you work.
Yes.
So there are clearly many things that you did earlier and and probably you also identified this during that work. Could you explain a little more on that?
Yes, I think from a course perspective, like I said, courses like applied econometrics, QRM, I did even sustainable cities that was taught during during our second year. I had also done global dynamics from that again that was part of the second year course. So I kind of chose certain topics that helped me broaden my understanding on urban development on different sectors. Like I also did one course on health. I did one on land acquisition as well that was done by Swagato sir. But of course, the building blocks that continue in your first year help me kind of channelize and work towards that. So all of this, I know somewhere along with the internship that helped me to know that, okay, fine, this is something that would help me in, uh, uh, like I said, upskilling myself in that particular domain. Some of my colleagues and some of my batchmates wanted specifically to do something in health, so they did all the courses that were relevant and offered by JSGP on health. And there were also some technical subjects as well. So in that context,
Sorry.
I think it would be great that you guys go through even say the electives that you guys have. I did one of the courses on GIS, which at that point I felt may be helpful for me to. I mean, when you're looking at urban planning, spatial planning through mapping, I think that was one skill that I very commonly. And it might be very job specific and probably even project specific, but it's something of a skill that I felt might be helpful for me given my area of interest. So that's how I kind of went about my course choices. Yes, sometimes some course clash with the others, because of which you may not able to take one of the courses. I remember, I think risk and resilience that was taught by Bhumna ma'am, I couldn't take it because it was clashing with some other course. But I think that's where you can kind of see and take that choice and understand what would be the best for you in choosing. But again, that comes from you also identifying yourself, maybe an area that you want to pick. Yes, even in the public policy field, it's not that you would want to continue in one and maybe specialize. People do that. Some keep switching their sectors, but at least have that common base of having a strength and grasp over public policies, understanding. And having said that, I think another thing that also helped me was through my course was also being up to date. I know newspapers is not a very common thing in the current generation, but it's something that that will at least keep you up to date with what's happening in governance. It's what's happening in the public policy field. Most of it you can relate it back to policy. So keep up to date with whatever that's happening. Keep yourself informed, and that might also help you understand, if you still haven't identified your area of interest, if there's an area of interest that lies by much of the reading that you guys do. Because sometimes the courses might not help you, in the sense that there might be some kind of like dislike, like I said, for quantitative aspects. People with the fear of maths may not want to take it up. But see, when you read things and when you see numbers and graphs and charts that help you understand policy better, I think it might pique your interest as well. So do reading beyond your course subjects as well. I know at the beginning of courses, every professor gives a list of books and reading material. I mean, you can stick to that, great, but also look beyond where you can help understand that. So for me, I mean, it started from UPSC, and yes, urban development kind of continued on to the courses that I did here, and then on to mobility.
Yeah, so I'm wondering, are there any questions, any comments from the audience? Because if aren't, because I also have this one on UPSC, because there are a lot of students who attempt UPSC and who are not able to get through. They spend a considerable amount of time in preparation, and recently I was also seeing one of these YouTube videos of somebody saying that public policy is the backup plan for UPSC aspirants. Because the UPSC is only, you're planning to work with the government, whereas public policy provides a much wider array. So maybe until people decide to raise their hands, maybe Anish can talk about that a little bit.
Yes, I know a lot of people, even during my preparatory times, I mean, were unclear of what they wanted to do as a backup in case UPSC does not work out. And public policy was something that came to a lot of our minds. But I know from people who, my friends and colleagues who were preparing and couldn't clear the exam, not everyone pursued public policy. Some went into doing an MBA, some went to do their masters in economics, in finance, business analytics. The options are many, but for public policy, I think you require that kind of interest to be in this field, to actually have that passion for it. I mean, that's something that I had, and that's why I wanted to continue on to this sector. And having said that, I mean, currently, I think Jindal was one of the first schools to have a public policy course in the country. And follow now, when you see a lot of universities like your IIMs, IITs, your ISBs, all having a public policy course, and that only goes to validate the importance of public policies in today's context. And that's where I think the options, career options, are many. You from a government perspective. Also, the government has started opening up a lot of fellowships. It's opening up a lot of consultant positions for freshers. The ministries are opening up a lot of young professional positions for freshers. And specifically, if you read the job description, it calls for a master's in public policy. So, I mean, you guys need to kind of keep track of all. I know, I mean, from your LinkedIn's and Twitters, you'll find a lot of information, but try to kind of follow even your government websites to understand where the notifications are coming, and wherever that you guys are eligible to apply for them. These are highly competitive posts as well. For instance, even Niti Aayog has this whole young professional course, and a lot of them you would see, and if you speak to them at one point would have done UPSC or would have prepared for UPSC, but yet they want to continue in this field. They want to be working in the government, understanding the impact that they can create through the jobs that they do. I mean, options are many. I mean, even now, each and every ministry is requiring students. They're going beyond the traditional way of conducting exams and recruiting people and professionals for this position. And it's a great opportunity for students in masters in public policy to actually engage and participate in governance.
Are there any comments from the students? Oh, everybody is very unusually quiet. Okay, I can see Shilpa there.
Has a question. Yeah. Sure.
Good morning, ma'am. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Anish, for giving us a very insightful. That was very insightful. So, the question I actually had is that the transition from being a student to an employee in an organization like OMI, how was it for you? So, one of the things that I noticed while I was doing internships is that although we've been equipped with the theories and the theoretical frameworks of policies and all that, one thing that I struggled a little was to translate that when we were given work, whether it was quantitative based or qualitative based, and while working in groups with senior officials and other colleagues. What are some of the soft skills that you think are very important that public policy students must keep in their mind while moving into a professional space? So how was that transition for you?
Okay, so I think my transition, a lot of my what can I say? I mean, the experience that I gained during the capstone was very helpful. From an organization standpoint, also, I mean, they were very, very clear and open in how they wanted me to be part of this organization. I mean, in all fairness, they never treated me as an intern. It was as any other employee who would go about the normal business in the organization. But in that context as well, I mean, where you did say, speaking to speaking to government stakeholders or anything. I remember I was also put in the deep end of just interacting with these government officials, being part of these meetings. But it's always learning on the job as well. Yes, you have that, you have the theoretical knowledge, but how do you put it to practice? I think the line starts blurring when you're on the job. You have some kind of knowledge, but when you're working, is when you start understanding, okay, fine, the application part of it. For me, that transition happened over the 3 to 4 months that I initially started working with it. I was coming with a more, doing the internship, it was more a student mentality of, okay, fine, I just need to complete my assignments. But that's where the organization also helped me to know that, okay, fine, no, this is something that we want to be professionally done. And that's where the true meaning of, professional work kind of takes shape. I remember doing my first issue brief. My organization let me do it and solely author it and also publish it. Of course, it went through multiple reviews and went through multiple edits. But that's where, for me, also that shaping happened of making my research that is attuned to what the industry requires, attuned to how the industry is thinking, and and I can also bring in my creativity and thought into those knowledge products that we create, that is then disseminated for the larger public discourse. The transition from again, I'm relating it back to say government engagements as well. I still remember my first government engagement was at the ministry with one of the secretaries and joint secretaries, and it was kind of like daunting, right? I mean, you would probably think that, oh, they know everything in the policy is, what could you kind of like go and contribute? But that's where the work that you have done and you can substantiate that and help them also convince. say specifically for the for mobility policies, how can public transport be improved in your cities? When you go with them with very pointed interactions that is backed with a lot of data, they also are open to having conversations and understand. You also need to understand that they receive inputs, suggestions, advice from multiple people. But when you're having that meeting with them, make use of that time to ensure that whatever recommendations, whatever suggestions are being put across is backed with the work that you have also done. So that was my first experience. I mean, it was, but over the course, it's become, I wouldn't say seamless, but there are always hiccups when you're working with the government. But it's become, you know how to like work around, you know how to, what a particular ministry might expect and might want. It's not that you tune your work to that, but you ensure that the work also substantiate the kind of change that is required from at the highest levels in the government. So that transition for me was, I mean, I wouldn't say immediate, but having good mentors at the organizations also helped me kind of develop and hone that. And I was given that liberty, I was given that freedom to explore. Explore. I did make mistakes, but it wasn't condemned upon or anything. It was just helped me in rectifying for the next time. So, I mean, that's how you learn. I mean, a lot of on-the-job learning, you put to practice what you have learned, and then yeah, you go about it.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Dean is back now, so maybe.
No, yeah, my battery
Yeah.
died. So I
Sorry.
had to get I'd shifted the room from where I normally sit. No, I was going to say that with reference to what you just said, the 2-year program is really foundational in a sense. We are not sort of scanning the market and saying, oh, there's going to be a great demand in this sector or that sector, and let's plug in a course that would come up on the transcript for that. And at the end of it, really, it's about all along how you make practical judgments, right? Because you really have to make decisions in public policy. Much can be said on both sides. You have different perspectives, but ultimately you must decide and take a course of action. So that ability to consider as many aspects as possible, and then to say, okay, but that it's not you haven't necessarily hit upon the perfect solution, but you can't duck decision making. Yes. The courage to say, yes, I'm going to make this decision. I mean, it's much like how you might get married, right? You have all kinds of considerations, and then you make a decision, and then you live with the consequences of that decision. So I think in that sense, this ability to not just say I'm shutting my eyes and poking my finger on the map and saying this is where I want to go, not that way, but it's something that it's like osmosis. You acquire that ability when you do a variety of courses. And so this is something, because I don't think that all knowledge should be necessarily instrumental to serve some narrow purpose. The acquisition of knowledge is really to be able to to learn all along the way. You're basically learning how to learn, and how to learn more economically with respect to time, and learn fast. So you should, I'm interested in, I don't know, was Anika here when you were a student?
Yes.
Yeah, so she was very passionate, and she's coming back in February to teach about electric. I knew nothing about electric mobility until we hired her, and then she talked about her work and so on, and she's now in Berlin. But we didn't, she could offer a course pertaining to the kinds of concerns that Ola will have, your organization would have, but that's contingent. It's not necessarily that you are looking for particular courses. I think, as Anish explained, some capacity to do both good qualitative and quantitative analysis and make judgments that you can pick up in a number of courses. And so you mentioned science and technology. I'm not sure if we've got a course on science and technology. We have, I think Professor Shiv Vishwanathan might offer a course. He's part of the
Part
STS
of the
group in
elective that I was
Harvard.
seeing on the website recently. So I thought maybe started offering as an elective, I guess.
Yes, we'd like to. I mean, but I don't know whether we've got a couple of people. I mean, Naresh Singh with
Swagato has this course on technology and privacy and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's but there's this whole field about what do you do with the artificial intelligence and its implications. I think we need to explore that. So I'm thinking about finding people who could address those concerns, who are working on it. So, and thank you for mentioning that, because it's one of the things that I have to figure out how to strengthen the array of offer that we have in the school. But it's also, as you know, we offer a number of cross electives in the institution. And so doing courses in other schools is a good idea. I'm being echoed. All right. So thank you very much, Anish, for being with us. It was very, very useful.
Yes.
I think it was useful to me, and I'm sure it's useful to students who listen to you.
Absolutely, sir. Yes. Thank you so much.
So I think I'm going to wait for any other questions if anybody has. Because if not, I have a question to ask. So throughout your master's program, you mentioned that you had a particular interest towards urban development. So for a lot of master's students, I know that who are in their first year or final year, they have multiple interest areas that they are curious about. So how do you suggest that they should streamline their choices to cater to just one interest area? Because at the end of the day, that's what helped you, because you were very you were curious about this one interest area and you went ahead with it. So how do you suggest they should streamline it, or do you suggest that they should be open to their open about their curiosity for multiple sectors?
Yes, thanks, Ritika. I think it's important. I mean, I know there'll be some kind of interest for everyone that lies there. Maybe relating that to public policy might take a while. I wouldn't particularly say that you have to narrow it down to one particular item during your course, because within the public policy space, and even as you begin work very soon, you'll see that there are multiple roles and positions right from the corporate sector to the government, and the interest could be varied. But it is essential to have that basis for you guys. But like I said, maybe reading a little more on public policy, reading a little more around developments both within India and globally, it might pique some kind of interest towards something, right? Again, maybe it's not probably always advisable to go with say if everyone is very interested in health. You shouldn't particularly take that if that does not interest you. You might maybe in your career at some point work in the health sector, but try and see maybe you have some kind of functional knowledge and understanding of that, right? Over the course of the two years, I know for most of my
muted for a minute.
Yes, so most of them have ended up doing or are working in the workspace and the field that they kind of have some kind of inclination and some kind of interest towards. So mapping those, maybe read about organizations and the work that they're doing, but keep that array open so that slowly you can build upon and say that, okay, fine, this is the area, this is the kind of work that interests you, and basis of which you can build your and make the most of the courses that are being offered at JSGP. because like Dean said, each of them would offer and equip you and upskill you in some context, in some aspect of public policy, which is important. Like for me, even say in future, I don't know if I would continue in mobility or not. But at least I have some kind of knowledge, and then if I am going into some other sector, I have some kind of functional knowledge that my course did provide, that I can explore and experience at new organizations. Talking out, say, I know a lot might be even interested in the corporate world. They look primarily from a technology perspective, from legal perspectives, from communication advocacy, how they can build and push their businesses, how they can improve systems within governments. So I mean, that basic knowledge is important. Read a lot. Read beyond the scope of. I know with the assignments and everything, time might be limited, but do take out maybe 15 to 20 minutes of your time to just read about what's happening in and around the world. That would definitely pique your interest. Also, even when there's a lot of talk about sustainability, climate change, that might be like a broad interest for everyone. I know even during our time, there was something that was always said, okay, fine, climate and sustainability is something that interests everyone. But within that itself, there are so many varied and a myriad of options and ranges that feed into building sustainable futures. So within that, maybe slowly think about how you can kind of narrow that down. That's why I say my reading definitely might help. Knowing more about what other organizations and the work that they're doing can do. Maybe just reading about different projects that different organizations are doing, right from international organizations to think tanks. It gives you a whole array of areas that you could explore. I mean, again, just to give an example, if you just look at Niti Aayog, they have an array of reports across different fields. They have even a research on millets, given that this is the International Year of Millets. So someone might be peaked in that area of work as well. So keep tabs on whatever is happening within the public space. Yes.
Thank you so much. It's really helpful.
I think finally my camera is beginning to work.
I think Nitya has a question. So, Nitya, please go ahead.
Yes.
Good afternoon. Hi, Anish. Thank you so much for sharing your experience. And in fact, I actually, this is the right time for this webinar, because at the same time, I'm also working on a research project on walkability. And one of the faculty mentors mentioned that I should read upon ease of moving index, and I think when I went to your profile, you were the person who had co-authored that report. And I would just like to take the opportunity to sort of mention that I'm interested to connect with you to get more insights about how that report shaped up, and if I could, I would really appreciate your mentorship on that.
Maybe what I can do is also leave my phone number and email address for anyone to contact. But yes, I mean, it's great that you're working on a subject on walkability, and that's something that we even pushed in our report of ease of moving index, that we're looking at active mobility as a mode choice for people.
Right. I cannot hear Anish.
There's an internet issue.
Yeah,
am I audible?
No, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, so as I was saying, I think it's great that you're working on the project. For me also, I did pick up something related to mobility as part of my policy brief that I had to write during my course, which was on parking and parking policies, and that's something that I worked on, and that's something that I could have also showed for different organizations, specifically OMI, when I was actually applying for them. But it's great. I mean, we can definitely connect, and I think for us also, we also learn a lot from people who come in as interns, people that even from the student community, we get to get a lot of fresh ideas, because again, mobility is something very innovative that's ever changing, and requires creativity. So yes, we can definitely connect, Nitya.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for answering my question. Thank you.
I've also been following this Bindu thing, the OMI, the Bindu
Yeah.
traveling, and so
Yes.
I was looking at some of those, and it's such a very easy way to capture the experiences
Yes.
of people, on a regular basis, and the ways in which public space is utilized by women vis-a-vis men.
Absolutely.
It's a very, very interesting work that
Yeah.
you're doing.
It's
So
like putting it
Anish,
in a manner that
yeah,
is consumable also, right? I mean, no one wants to read
yeah,
long reports, documents, and
exactly,
evaluation,
exactly.
but putting it in a more ingestible, consumable manner, I think
Yeah.
that helps.
I've also been reading your policy briefs, and I've been reading the small write-ups on various things that you have been producing. And what I realized was, again, these are very short pieces. They are not very long pieces. There are 3, 4, 5 pages, but very dense, and there's a lot that is written.
Yes, ma'am.
So, because we have a lot of students here from our first year who are struggling with writing,
Yeah.
as you did during your first semester. I think everybody goes through this phase.
Yes.
So, could you tell us a little bit about, writing, the kind of, writing we make you do at JSGP is very academic writing. So
Yes.
a lot of students complain. They say, this kind of writing is what you guys do. Why should we be forced to do this kind of,
Yeah.
very serious writing and that kind of very pointed and focused research, right?
Yes.
So I'm just wondering, are we doing the right thing? Was it something that helped you, or did you have to unlearn that when you started writing all of this?
Yes, ma'am. I think it was a bit of both. It did build a foundation on academic and research writing, but I think coming here, uh, again, each organization have different ways of communicating and putting out their knowledge product. For us, we'd like to be very crisp and to be very pointed, which is not too what can I say, heavy on the word count. Because our engagements, even from the government point of view, whenever we take them with large reports, they won't even open it. They'll say, give me the top 3 points, give me the top 4 points as what needs to be done. So if that is effectively brought out through these knowledge products, I think that's where it's impactful. I think that's where the whole, I think as part of a course, we were taught to be a little more descriptive. So that was the learning part in understanding, okay, fine, you need to explain detail out on elements that sometimes is just a layman reading a particular piece or an article. But at the same time, when the audience changes, you need to be a little more focused. So if you are writing a report for the larger audience, we might be a little more use a layman language that is easily understandable and consumable. But if it is say for some kind of like government engagement or some other stakeholder, we'd like to keep it a little more crisp, short. So I mean, it varies. It's both like a learning and unlearning, but this is where the adaptability also comes in, where you'll have to kind of adapt as in what the job requires. So yes, I mean, it just builds a base when you're reading and researching and writing as part of your course. But of course, it's much more. It goes beyond all of that.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Anish. So I'm wondering, are there any more questions before we move on? Any more questions from the students?
No, we've done an hour and bit.
Yeah. Yes.
So I think we shouldn't tax Anish
either. Yes.
unreasonably. So
yes, it's a
we've got
weekend
things
after
really-
all.
Yes, he has to go and be with his family. I mean,
yes, exactly.
so should we all. Okay, thank you very much, Anish. Wonderful.
Thanks,
and thank you,
Anish. Thank you very
Kaveri,
much.
for arranging
Yes.
these dialogues with our alumni.
Absolutely.
It's enormously helpful, and it helps us also valuable feedback on how we might,
Yeah.
because it's always work in progress, the program.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
We can change things and so on. So thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Maybe
Thanks,
I'll just drop
everyone.
my number and email
Yeah.
for anyone to
That will be wonderful. That will
reach
be
out.
wonderful.
So yes,
Thank you.
The chat box, yeah.
Yeah.
yes. I'll
And
just
also to say that I have now been in touch with other alumni as well. So yesterday I had a very long conversation with another alumni who's working in Coca-Cola. We have another alumni student of mine who told me that she's working in Delhi now for a research organization. So there is lot more to come, lot more conversations. The idea is not just to connect our alumni with present students, but also to connect our alumni with other alumni. So that's the idea. So please do share it widely. I know Saturdays can be not a very good, but it's a time when probably at 11 o'clock in the morning, people are just awake and they can just log in and listen to something. So that's why we are having it at this time. But Anish will also be with us on the 26th, right? 26th or 27th? 27th of September, right? So he will be with us on the 27th of September.
Yeah.
I look forward to meeting him in person, and thank you so much for taking time out for our students, Anish. Very, very helpful, and I'm sure they're all very, very motivated, and they will be there on the 27th to meet you in person.